Hey everyone, welcome to our 14th Python tutorial, and it is our very first Python tutorial of the new year, so I wish you all a very happy new year. And it feels really great to get past a year that has caused us so much pain and hardship, and although it has been a truly terrible, divisive, and trying year, I found it to be a little tiny bit beautiful and unique as well. As more than ever before, you saw people, selflessly caring and helping for others. And there was a lot more coming together than breaking apart. And I found it a lot more important for us to look on the brighter side of things and see how we can grow and help. And with that, I guess it's time for us to jump right back into Python. And today, we're going to be going into learning all about strings. So I know what all of you guys are thinking. You're like, haven't we already discussed strings and variables? And yes, we absolutely have. We learned a little bit about strings in our session with variables, and there is still a little bit more for us to uncover with strings, as they aren't all that they seem. And just to give you guys a quick definition of what variables are simply boxes that store a value that can change. So both strings and integers are variables, but the differences that occur between strings and other variables is that strings are data types for a sequence of characters similar to that of a list for characters. And there are more applications that can be done with strings, such as accessing specific characters and determining a string's length, things that we can't really do with the other variables. And with other variables, such as ints and floats, they can be acted upon by a number of operators, whereas strings do not have that liberty. And lastly, strings are immutable, so once defined, they cannot be changed. So I'll just give you guys a quick example of creating a basic string, and I'm sure you guys already know how, but I just wanted to make sure that I gave you guys a proper example so that when you want to refer to this program later, you always have that idea of what exactly is a basic string and how do I define it. So let's get right into it. Alrighty, so here is just a simple program for the different types of ways to define strings. So we have our simple string right here, and it is using single quotes, and we have our double string, which is using double quotes. And the important thing is just that they are the same exact thing. We're just using double and single quotes. And lastly, here is a multi-line string, and you can see we're doing the what it do flight crew, FTC, flight team stand up, Flight React's whole like intro thingy. I don't know if you guys watch it, but that's just like a quick example I gave for a multi-line string. So let me go ahead and run this program. You can see what exactly a multi-line string does, as well as what exactly is occurring with our simple and double strings. So we have was up, and what it do, flight crew. So now that we have a pretty basic idea of how exactly to define a string and what are the different types of strings, it's important that we get right into the different methods that we use with strings. So you can see there are tons and tons of methods, and here are a couple of main methods that we use, like specific methods to strings, and they're all pretty self-explanatory. So you can see capitalize, ends with, find, index, is lower, replace, split. So I'll just go into a couple of the main ones that we will use often, or you will be asked to use often, especially when it comes to working at some place or even developing your own program. So let me go ahead and write some quick programs for our different methods available to strings. Right. So just to start out, we're using some pretty basic methods. We're using the lower and upper methods. And I simply have a favorite superhero right here, Spider-Man, and you can see the capitalization and all of that is pretty wonky, right? There's no real order to it. So when you go ahead and print this out the first time, you'll see that's exactly what it's going to print. And you can see right here, we're using the three methods. We're using title, lower, and upper. So when you see right here, what title does is that it will only capitalize the first letter of each word. And in that way, it's a title, right? And lower and upper, which are mainly used a lot in when you're trying to make all the data uniform, when you're trying to organize and cleanse data. This is a lot this is where you'll see a lot of lower and upper methods used. And right here, it will simply convert all of the letters within our string to lowercase, or all of the letters within our string to uppercase. Let's go ahead and test out this program. So right, you see Spider-Man with the spelling and the letters all wonky, and then Spider-Man all lowercase and all caps. So once again, those are just our title, lower, and upper methods. And now that you guys got a quick understanding of that, I'll move on to the split and join methods for strings. Alrighty, so here's a quick sample program of splitting and joining with strings. So you can see right here I have a complete story string, and I'm saying I was bitten by a radioactive spider. And you can see I'm just going to print it in this line, and then here I'm using our method split. So simply what split does is it will break apart whatever string we have into a list, and it will break apart this list based upon the spaces that are used. So we'll have I, comma was, comma bitten, comma by, comma a radioactive spider. So it will break them apart by the spaces. So you'll see right here, it's going to print that out. And next we have a empty string called split story. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the join to ultimately bring together all of our split, all of the values in our split list, and combine them all together in the split story string. So I'll just run this so you guys can get a quick idea. And I think my explanation was a little bit poor, but hopefully this program will clear some of it up. Right, so you can see it says I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and then with the split, it has converted it to a list and separated it based on each of our spaces. And then lastly, with our split story, we're joining them all together, and it is one big string again. So that's just how we're going to be using our split and join methods with strings. So next, let's go to find and replace, and this I feel is going to be especially important when you work with a lot of names and a lot of data. So alrighty, so we finished with our find and replace methods, and they use a lot of what we talked about earlier with our positioning. So right here, we're using the string casting right here. And this is just because our find method returns an integer. So what it's going to be doing is it's going to be looking for whatever string you've supplied right here, and you can see it will return the integer value of its position. So right here we have 10, 11, and 12 right there. The hour in power is at 12. So it should return 12. And then lastly, with replace, it's going to locate this smaller like subset string within our larger string and ultimately replace it. So once again, all these methods are pretty straightforward. I'm sure you guys are going to understand them and use them and catch on quite quickly, but I just wanted to give you guys some quick examples so you have this understanding and this blueprint in case you want to look back. Right, so we have with great power comes great responsibility. It returns the value 12, and then it's changed it from responsibility to destruction. So once again, that's just a quick example of our find and replace methods. So now we're going to move on to something that we will also use a lot with when you're trying to clean data and shape it in a way that's appropriate to your program, and that is with stripping strings. So I know it sounds a little weird, but that is actually what it does, and it will clear out the spaces that exist within a string. And I guess you guys will see more of it when I write this quick program. Okay. Alright, so that's the last one of our method programs, and here we talked about stripping strings once again. So we have a space string, and you can see we have a lot of space between our values, and here with our no space string you can see there's no space. So what our strip is going to do is it's going to remove all of this space that is on to the front of it and to the end of it, but not what is within our smaller string. And next we have our no space once again. And one thing I found a little fun and a little interesting was the zfill method. and what it does is it will add in whatever number specified, that number of zeros, to the beginning of our string. So since I said 20, it's going to add in 20 zeros to our no space. So let's go ahead and try this out and see exactly what occurs. Right, and you can see right here, spaced out originally with a bunch of space, and now there is no space with the strip, and then here you have no space, and then we did our z fill 20, and it's going to add in our 20 zeros to this area. So now that you guys got a quick rundown of all the major methods that might be of some importance to you later on with strings, let's get into some challenges with Python, and I'll only help you guys a very super duper tiny bit. I want you guys to be able to get through this on your own. It will contain a lot of the concepts that we talked about in this video, as well as some basic ideas that we've discussed previously. So for the first one, it's going to be a palindrome identification program. And the challenge basically is that you should ask the user, prompt the user to enter a word, and you will simply detect whether or not that word is a palindrome. And for those of you that don't know what a palindrome is, one quick example of a palindrome would be race car, where if you spell it forwards and backwards, it would be the same exact word. So race car is one. I guess another one would be mom, right? M-O-M backwards. I'm blanking. I used to know some pretty big ones or some pretty unique ones, but that's the basic idea of what a palindrome is. So once again, your program should ask for user input, and based on the user input, it should identify whether or not the word you turned in was a palindrome. And a little bit of information I should give to you beforehand is how exactly to reverse a word. So one way to reverse a word is through this syntax right here. So let's say I have a string. I'll just call it string. I'll just call this s is equal to my name. And then I were to say print s -1. You'll see right here, it will reverse my name. So you can see that's exactly what it does. So using all the concepts and some of the methods that we've discussed today, let's go ahead and create our palindrome identification program. And I'll give you guys some time to figure it out. So have fun. So by now, I guess you guys should have paused the video beforehand, but hopefully you did pause and you worked through this whole palindrome identification program. It's a pretty fun, unique program to do just to start out, and it'll be like a little bit of a test just to see how much you guys understand, and like a little bit of a problem solving exam. So now let me go ahead and work through how exactly to create our palindrome identification program. Alrighty, so I finished this little palindrome identification program, and let me just walk through what exactly my steps are to complete this challenge. So first, right here, we have our user input. I'm simply saying enter a word and requesting input. And then what I'm doing is I'm creating a new variable called reversed word, and it is also a string. And simply it will be equal to the reverse of our palin word input. So whatever our user inputs, it will simply reverse and store in reversed word. So next, I'm simply printing out the user input and then the reversed word, both of those. And then I'm going to do the main chunk of the program, which is with our if and else stuff. So I'm saying right here, if palindword.upper, and I'm using, right here you can see I'm using our upper and lowercase stuff that we talked about in the very beginning of our important method with two strings, and that's simply to make our two words uniform and so that they don't conflict at all, because in case somebody comes in with wonky spelling and tries to screw up my program, I will be prepared for that, and spelling, especially capitalization at the beginning of the word, will not affect how our palindrome detector works. So right here we're using our upper, and I'm just checking if these two variables are not equal to each other. If the values that they contain are not equal, then it will just say this is not a palindrome, and if they are not equal, then that means that they are a palindrome. So let's go ahead and test this program. So you can see right here, enter a word. So I'll enter the word race car. So I entered that in. It will say my input is race car, the reversed word is race car, and that my input is in fact a palindrome because the capitalization will not affect how it is a palindrome. So if I were to enter another word, let's say I enter the word banana, it will say banana and a nab, and then your input banana is not a palindrome, sorry. So once again, that's just a fun little program for palindrome identification. So next, I'm going to give you guys another quick challenge, and then we'll end today's tutorial. I know I have a feeling it's been super duper long compared to our other tutorials, but there is a lot of information that comes with strings, and I just wanted to make you guys uber prepared. But here is another challenge, and it is a word count program. So what I want you guys to do in this program is to once again prompt the user to enter a line or a statement, and with that statement I want you to ultimately count the number of words that are in that statement. And the way that you guys do that is up to you. I have a couple ideas of how I did it and how I'm going to do it, but I suggest you guys try it out, and I will be here obviously to show you guys how I did it. So I'll give you guys some time to try to figure this out, and I will be here for the solution. Okay, so hopefully you've completed this program and like paused it and figured it out and all that kind of stuff. And now I will come in with my rendition of this word counting program. So once again, it starts out with user input, and let's begin. Alrighty, so I've completed the word count program, and let me just break it down for you guys once again. So here I'm doing our user input, and then what I'm doing right after is I'm creating a new variable, which is a list, as you can see, since we're using our split method that we've discussed before. And what it's going to do is whatever statement you've typed, it's going to split them along these spaces. So it's going to basically divide them up by words, which is the main idea. And once I've done that, once again, I'm just going to print back my user input and then my split statement. And then I'm going to have an integer variable called length statement. And it's just going to find the length of the string, or of the list, sorry. And then it will print the number of words that are in my statement as the integer value that I get from this length operation or length method. So once again, it's a pretty small, unique program, and it's just there to teach you guys problem solving. You could have done this in a lot of ways. I'm sure I've seen students and other people do it using for loops and while loops, but this is just one simple way that I have done it. So let me go ahead and run this program, enter a line or statement. So you can see right here I've said may the force be with you, and it's broken them down along the spaces. So may the force be with you, and the number of words that they were able to identify is 6, and that of course is how many words there are. May 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun learning a lot about strings. I know we uncovered a lot, but it is all essential stuff, and you're going to be working with strings for the rest of your programming career, so it's important to know your way around them, and especially when you're watching other people's code or trying to understand why exactly does something work this way. You want to know what methods they're using for strings, and more importantly, how they're getting the result. And I hope these challenges were especially helpful to you, and maybe they taught you guys a little bit more about problem solving in programming, because that is what it is all about. So I hope you had fun, and as always, have a very, very great day. Bye.